I turn around and the body is sitting up on the table, right? A couple of months, and I hung with people like Santana and Garcia and Grace Slick, and but she was well connected. I mean, she knew the Queen, and she knew people at Downing, at 10 Downing, and I mean.
In today's episode of Writer Chats, we speak to Amazon #1 best-selling author Paul Hollis, a man whose extraordinary story has taken him from digging latrines in East Africa for the Peace Corps to investigating the evolving nature of global terrorism while meeting some weird and wonderful people along the way.
Where are you based?
Pretty close to Lake Erie, which is one of the Great Lakes up there in the U.S., if you're not familiar with it. It's there's Superior in Michigan and Huron and Erie and Ontario, I think. Anyway, I'm close to there. I'm about in the country now. I've retired, and my wife has had this house in the family for almost 200 years. Like, it was built in 1835 or something like that. And so so she didn't want to give it up. So instead of Florida or someplace warm, we had to come here to the cold environment.
A full-time writer now, just in your, based in this beautiful house in the, on the countryside.
I just start to write. I mean, I just write now, and I got a couple other projects going. There's one with I have partnered with another lady in a project called Endangered Earthlings, and it's actually a nonprofit that talks about and helps people with climate change and what to do and how to do that, and how to get through life with the climate change, et cetera, sort of thing. But mostly full-time writing here. So.
Yeah. Okay, so this is Amit. You may have seen him on another. He's gone American for you though.
Hi.
Hi, Paul.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
So, Paul, it's difficult to know where to start with you.
Right.
Yeah. We can start with the education, and then move on to you were digging in East Africa, and your stories are like crazy, intertwined with all your novels and that sort of. It's in itself. This is why it's good to have writers like you on the channel, because you're a real part of what you write. So even though it's fiction, there's lots and lots of reality involved. So if you just go from the beginning.
Yeah, well, so this whole thing started. I started university in 1967 at the end of the year, at the start of the school year, and I immediately fell into this subculture of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, sort of thing, and not too much of some, but lots of the others. So, but it's sort of reshaped my reality, kind of figuratively and a little bit more literally than I'd like to have been. But I went to school in Chicago at University of Illinois, and so that put me right in the midst of all the protests and things, the hippie protests and that sort of thing. And in 1968, there was the Democratic National Convention was there, and I don't know if you guys probably aren't old enough to remember that, but there were lots of fighting going on and protesting, let's say, and then during that summer, I took a hiatus to San Francisco and hung out in the Haight-Ashbury for a couple of months, and I hung with people like Santana and Garcia and Grace Slick and a bunch of people like that, and they were just kind of like normal people back then, kind of thing. But they're pretty cool people. But anyway,
Garcia from the Grateful Dead, yeah.
Yes, yeah. Right.
Oh, man, that's crazy.
yeah. It was a crazy time, and so after that, in the winter of '68, there was the trials they called the Chicago 7, which they prosecuted seven of the leaders of the protests that were in '68 for the convention, and that was called Chicago 7. You had people like Abby Hoffman and Jerry Rubin and Hayden and all those guys there, and then in the summer course of '69 was Woodstock, And so I just, had to go. That was my calling, right? And so, there's this old saying. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but if you remember the '60s, you weren't there because of the drugs and stuff like that. But I do remember certain things. I remember being 19 years old, and I remember being hungry and buzzed and pumped on adrenaline all at the same time. I remember being wet and dirty at the same time. I remember dancing to the nonstop music and that sort of thing. And what I don't remember though is another time like that. And so to make the long story short, I was actually majoring in staying out of Vietnam in college, so it's like that was, there wasn't any shame about that. It was just like, you're in college and you don't go to Vietnam. And so I did what I had to do to get through that. And when I graduated, my dad said, "Oh, hey, I got some friends over at the FBI. You want to go to Quantico and do that?" And I said, maybe not, because I would thought maybe I'd be a kind of a hypocrite if I said, okay, I was kind of playing at not carrying a gun for 4 years, and then all of a sudden here I am with working for the federal government with carrying a gun. And so I thought, well, what I'll do is, so what I ended up doing was I joined the Peace Corps, thinking that was a good alternative to the war. And they sent me for training. They sent me down to this place in Kentucky, if you're familiar with the United States. And so they and it's like maybe a stone's throw from West Virginia, what I call the lost world of West Virginia. I had never been there, and I thought maybe dinosaurs were still there, So I thought, about a week into this training, I thought, wow, these guys aren't really kidding, are they? And so along came this opportunity, let's say, to help the natives in East Africa, in a place called Tanzania, if you're familiar with that. That's where the little blue stones come from. Very light blue stones that made a really in the 80s and 90s, they were really popular and very expensive at the time. But anyway, so back in the 70s, turns out I was digging latrines, and I was up to my knees in mud and some kind of animal excrement, because it was monsoon season, so it's like raining all the time, and they gave me a flat nose shovel, and I was kind of digging these latrines so that so these people could have at least a place to go to the bathroom. And along comes this guy, and he says, "Hey, looks like you might be wasting your time here. I got a better offer for you." And so what that offer was a free ticket to Europe. I could go anywhere I wanted to, and they would pay for it, So I thought, oh, that sounds good. That sounds way better than what I was doing here. And so, but it turns out that if you, what I accepted was an expendable position, let's say, which I didn't know. My agenda was to see Europe, and their agenda was to make me one of the guys with the red shirts in the Star Trek movies. If you're a fan of those guys, and they always die. They die. And they're written out of the script, and so that basically was like, well, no harm, no foul is from their position if you got killed, and being 23, 24 years old, I had no idea about being killed or anything like that. It's just, I wasn't going to live past 30 in those days anyway. So it was like, well, what the hell, So what they would say, they would say, go to Europe and have a good time. But when we needed you to find out more information. It's like that. So maybe they heard something from a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy who knew somebody's cousin who thought that they'd heard such and such. And it was my job to sort of find out what was going on, more detail about it, and it was all had to do with terrorism. Actually, they were. It was, as you guys know, you've lived it and breathed it, that terrorism was making a huge big comeback in the early 70s. It had died out now, that sort of thing. And what was happening at the time was that, from my position, was that let's say just terrorism in general. I'm not really sure how to phrase it, but what they would do is before this time was they would pick out a politician, and they would, okay, do away with him and kill him or bomb him or something else like that. And usually the fallout was kind of confined to that particular person, or maybe in the general area, sort of thing. And so, but what they learned, I guess, really quickly was that oh, you kill a politician, well, they're going to just replace him with two more, and now you don't know what you've got, right? So what they kind of fell upon is this thing about going after innocent people, that sort of hit the hearts and minds and feelings of the common person. You kill kids and you kill women and children and men, and that have no ideology at all. They're just trying to live their life, and that sort of brought home a new kind of a terrorism. So what the United States wanted to do at that time was make sure it didn't come to our shores.
So this is kind of like where the Hollow Man story begins, yeah.
And this,
like from this point,
this is where it begins. This is where it begins, and it takes off from there. Being young and stupid and impressionable and arrogant, maybe, all those kinds of things, I didn't actually know enough to leave the thing alone. My job was really to collect this information and give it to the professionals to resolve, right? But I sort of kind of got carried away in my thoughts, and that's where this led to, is like, it's like, well, I gotta have more information, I gotta do the more, so, and then it got personal, with the guy in the first book, and so that's where the Hollow Man starts.
Oh, brilliant. So Amit, you've read, have you finished it?
I'm about 2/3 of the way through, Paul, but I mean, it's been really interesting, because one thing I wasn't expecting, and Paul, maybe this is the first question I had for you. There's moments where you laugh out loud, because I don't know if it's, I think us Brits, we kind of use humor to get through the grim, grey, the rainy days and stuff. But maybe I wasn't expecting. I've read, crime thrillers, espionage, those kind of genre books, but I wasn't expecting those laugh out loud moments. So I guess I was wondering, did you intentionally kind of put those in to kind of balance out the seriousness, or what was the intention?
Yeah, I mean, it's really my personality. I told the story from memories and from what I had understood at the time, etc. And and yeah, I mean, that was just me. That was how I was, I mean, talking about tissue paper being my only protection, or this sort of thing, and yeah, I mean, that was just really my personality and things that I had thought at the time, and that, so yeah, it was just the way the story went. I intended it not to be sort of like the ultimate James Bond and Jason Bourne kind of thing, where they're always the winners, and they're always saying and doing the right thing at the right time. And I sort of remembered that, hey, wait a minute, it wasn't exactly like that. I mean, I had I was trained in hand-to-hand combat a little bit, and in those days from a Marine Corps drill person who actually taught the SEAL teams in the Navy to how to do their jobs, sort of thing. And so I was not thinking that I had made a good decision when I got to this guy here, but after that, it was like, okay, it's like, hey, I'm okay to see Europe, and I'm just a kind of a fun-loving guy, and I've got my own agenda, but these other guys had their own agenda as well, and it didn't particularly include me being alive or not alive, but they hoped that I would sort of stay alive and get enough information for them to react to. Right?
I find that, like, the style of it, the writing style, lots of like emphasis on dialogue. Yeah, really nice dialogues, very tight dialogues, short chapters, which I was finding shorter chapters makes it easier to read in some way. It just flows from one point to the next. And initially, when I read the first few chapters, it just made me want to travel again. Apart from like the story, I was thinking I want to go back to Madrid, because you talk about the churches and the bell tower and things like this. So very beautiful. Where did your style of writing? Who influenced your style of writing, or is it just something you?
Yeah, actually, the poets have. I'm really a big fan of W.H. Auden and and Dylan Thomas and T.S. Eliot and those kind of guys. And what I had always wanted to do in reality, when how much money you're going to make out of that one, that's almost like being a philosophy major, sort of, there's no money in it. And not that I was really thinking about money at the time, but I was thinking, well, life took over anyways, and so the poetry kind of thing went away. But it always stuck with me to say, is a feeling is like, if I could write a story that the poets tell in their poetic phrasing and all that, if I could tell that, if I could put some of that into a story, it would be a pretty cool thing. And that's really just where it came from. And what there's and the characterizations, though, to me were really important. I think, like maybe there's really nothing to me that would carry a story other than great characters. To me that's what you do. And I tried to put the characterizations into real life people, sort of thing, whereas I would put in a lot of books I see are all perfect English in the dialogues and everything like that, and people don't talk like that. They use contractions. They have accents. They have the selection of their words are important to them, and sort of thing. So if you can do that right, you can pull them off the page, and they can walk with the reader through the story, and so that that is the one thing. And then that coincides greatly with my thoughts about location, sort of thing. The location really sets the mood of the book, and it also brings in cultures and other characters that you wouldn't kind of normally see in your own life, like, if you, because I mean, I lived in in St. Louis for 20 years, off and on, and the Mississippi River runs right by there, 10 minutes away, and I have known people that haven't been across the river in their whole lives. It's like, are you kidding me? Yeah. It's like, you got to get out and see the world. You have to interact with people. No wonder you think everybody that doesn't look like you is an idiot, right? It's just go and talk to the people and understand what they're doing. So if you put a reader into that situation, then they can start to understand that here's the reason, here's what they think, here's what you think when you're in a situation, and that sort of thing, and that's how it goes for me for those two things.
Talking of characters, this lovely this British MI6 lady, was this a fantasy, something you wanted to happen, or did it really happen?
No, that she was real, and I actually still talk to her nowadays. Oh, wow. Yeah. But yeah, she was an amazing lady, and literally, those stories were true. She saved my life 3, 4, 5, 6 times. I would have been dead long before, and well deserved of that red shirt from Star Trek. So, but she was younger than I was, but very much more mature and understood the world a whole lot better than I did. And she was well connected. I mean, she knew the Queen, and she knew people at Downing, at 10 Downing, and I mean, the royal family knew. She well connected lady, yeah. But tough in the situation. You wouldn't want to get on her bad side. So
did you need her permission to then incorporate her in the story, in the book, or was she just happy for you to, as long as you didn't mention
it? She only asked that I change her name from her real name to that one, and but that is actually part of her christening name, I think, and I learned later that that Zeta in Greek, I think it is means searcher or seeking kind of thing, and so I thought, well, that's pretty appropriate for her. I mean, it's as good as any name. So and of course my nickname Doc, I should say the character Doc came from another kind of story when I was in high school, and I don't know if you want to hear that or not, but that's another interesting story. I was on the wrestling team, and in sports, and the coach thought that we all should have a job outside as well, just to learn how to participate in the world. And my job that he got for me was working in a mortuary. And so what I was doing is I cleaned out the trash cans and swept up in the where the in the embalming room where all the bodies were laid, prepping for their funerals and things. And it didn't bother me. I had my earphones on and my tunes going, sort of thing, and sweeping around one day, and I hear this thing creaking behind me, kind of thing. It's a really weird sound coming out of this. And I turn around and there's the body is sitting up on the table, right? And I thought, oh my God, and that thing is between me and the door, right? And so I took the broom and I was running and I whacked him with it, with the end of it like a jousting pole, I guess, and knocked him off. Hear this big racket behind me, but I kept running up the stairs, through the lobby, out the front door, took a left turn, and I was like 2 blocks away before this guy came and stopped me in a car, and he says, he says, wait, he said, that was just my brother. He was having some fun with you. And I said, I don't care, I quit. And he says, well, okay, then come on by and let's pay you what we owe you. And I said, no, you can keep that, and he looked at me for a long time and he says, well, can I have my broom back? So I was still holding his broom as he's running there. So anyways, naturally by the next day in school, it was all over the place. And so the kids started calling me Doc for the rest of my that time in high school and college there. So
wait, so you've lived in like many different countries, yeah? I think you said like 50 different countries, was it? Or like, you lived in 50 different across Europe and Africa and places like this. Can you just talk about some of them, like some of them that influence you the most, maybe, or
Sure. Yeah. I've probably lived overseas probably 11, 12 years total, with all things considered. And I have lived in Waterloo and Paris and London and Rome and Madrid and Africa in I don't know, Sao Paulo and Rio and Tokyo, and I mean and a lot of them, they sort of I sort of like to learn things in my life. Every day I try to learn something new, and that's how I took this attitude of when I want to see what people are like. I want to understand, different cultures and thought processes, and it turns out to me that most people are people. They're concerned about the same sorts of things. But I got to tell you that one of my favorite places was southern France. I loved down there with all the way from Saint Tropez to Monaco, and just a beautiful place down there. And I love London, although I was happy to have someone else's money to spend there. It's very expensive there.
I was just going to say I can vouch for that, Paul. I'm based in London, about 20 minutes train ride away from Waterloo. But I was just going to jump into, sorry, another thing that kind of came across from the writing, Paul, was that all this experience of traveling around Europe, and you've obviously been to some of my favorite places as well. I love Madrid and traveling around Spain, and then Paris obviously is beautiful. And I was lucky enough to spend some time teaching in Italy, in the south of Italy. But I was just wondering, because of the setting, it was kind of moving around these places, and the time before. I think me and Tim were born in the 70s. I was just wondering, like, to take us back, obviously 30, 40 years to what Europe was like, and the history, and talking about Franco. How do you feel looking at from the US, how Europe has developed? Is it something that if you came back, you'd be really like surprised at the changes, or you kind of expect what's been going on?
Or have you
no,
have you come back and seen those changes, yeah, in recent years?
Yeah. Oh, I'd love to. I have I've probably got probably more than probably close to 4 million air miles in my life. And just all of a sudden, when I retired, I sort of stopped traveling. I just stopped traveling, and that was probably 11 years ago. So I would love to see Europe again, and I mean, it's always been on my list, and I've got those free miles things stored up. So I mean, it's not a problem. I just getting a chance with all this COVID and this sort of thing. And so it's kind of wait till that gets over. But yeah, I'd love to see, the changes just in the last 10, 15 years that have gone on, and I'm sure they have. And so, yeah, but I mean, it wasn't just all in the 70s that I visited these places. It was all through after I was lucky enough to survive this terrorist kind of thing. I actually joined IBM and was their specialist for surveillance and both physical and the cameras kind of thing. But a lot of my traveling after my early 20s came into the technology kind of efforts with IBM and sort of thing.
So you've got like a big social media presence, yeah?
There are two kinds of people that are on Twitter. They're the ones that have the 3 million followers, and they follow maybe 3 or 10 or whatever it is, right? And those people, it's all about me, right? Yeah. It's like, look at me, look how great I am, and follow my stories, and I've got all these wonderful things, and you're gonna love it, right? And I'm gonna be an influencer and tell you what's going on in the world, and you're gonna do what I say, and sort of thing. And then there's the other person who comes on there and sort of relates to people, kind of thing. And that's really me. I have, I think, maybe 82,000 or something like that followers, but I also follow 75,000, right? So what I look at that is interactions, and you're there to learn, you're there to give your knowledge, you're there to help people, they're there to help you if they're engaged in it, sort of thing. And that, I mean, that to me is what is the best thing on Twitter. I do have Facebook accounts, but I generally spend most of my time on Twitter because I get more interactions there. I mean, I can post something on Facebook and maybe get 20 likes at the very best.
Well, have these social media, so like Twitter, for example, has this helped? Or is it like that your connections, and you have connections in Europe? Did you translate your books into some of the languages in Europe so you can sell them in Europe, or
Yeah, actually, both of the books I have right now are #1 bestsellers on Amazon, and Amazon does that for you. They translate into the different languages, so it goes to German and Indian and French and that sort of thing. Then you can buy it there online, but you can also get it there in English as well too. So yeah, that's pretty much how that works. I have back in 2014, I was amazed that the great revelation of my life is submitting the Hollow Man to a contest of like maybe 2,000, 2,500 English speaking books from around the world on Australia, England, wherever, Canada, UK. So anyway, they so I thought, well, I'll never hear from them again. I just thought I was a lark, and so they sent me an email and said, well, you're in the top 10. We're gonna decide on the top 10 here in a couple of weeks, and then I win the thing. It's like, holy crap! I was more surprised than they were, I'm sure. And so so what that got me was my own agent and publisher, and it turns out that without pulling any punches, I was doing better without them. So it turns out that the days when you get the upfront contracts with here's $50,000 to write a book or this kind of thing, they don't happen anymore. And the agents and the publishers are really there to make money. That's what they're there for, and they don't really understand marketing at that level, sort of thing. So what they do is they jack up the price of the book, and they say, oh, look how great we are, and I got 0 sales for a whole year. And I said, to these guys, what's going on? So, and they say, well, nobody likes your book. And I say, like I understand that lots of people may not like it. that's okay with me, but anybody, sort of thing. And so I took it back from him, and that's when I went to Amazon, and I said, okay, I'm going to be a self-publisher and sort of do that myself. And publishing and marketing, sorry, is a full-time job in itself, and I've learned that as a writer, that if you can either spend all your time in marketing or all your time in writing, and they're the total opposite ends of the spectrum, because you could have the best written book and everything like that, but if you can't get it to the readers, they're not gonna be able to see it. So you have to market yourself. You have to build your websites, and you have to say, this is what my brand stands for, and this and that sort of thing. So and that's a full-time job. You have to keep putting on Twitter, keep putting posts on Facebook, wherever you can do that kind of thing. And it's very important for a writer to actually do that, so that they can establish themselves as a brand. And if you think about it, you kind of do that your whole life anyways. I know a lot of writers are sort of reluctant introverts, sort of thing, where I wrote this book, so that's all I need to do, and it's all I want to do, actually. And so what they don't understand, though, is that you've been selling yourself your whole life anyways. Every time you go on a job interview, you sell yourself. Every time you do something good, you say, hey, look at me, I did something really good here. And people,
you see it,
that's how
in boxing, you see it. Like, you see, sometimes it's not always the best fighter that reaches the top. It's the one with the biggest mouth, and they promote.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And people will pay, lots of money to watch them, and they're not the best at all. And then you have other people who are quite humble. They don't make anything in boxing. It's about. So this is what I wanted to say with you. It's a balance between knowledgeable writing, good writing, like a book from a life of experience. Yeah. So real first-hand experience, which makes it a good product. Yeah, but. I was going to ask you about selling the book. Yeah, when you go to a publisher, that doesn't mean they can sell at all, because who is Paul Hollis? Nobody knows him. Yeah, at the start,
right?
Apart from a few spies in Europe,
Right. I think they're all dead.
Yeah. You killed them all. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my claim. That's my claim to fame. I outlived them all.
A few spies in Europe and a long list of women. Yeah. They all know Paul Hollis. Yeah.
I'm not sure about that, but yeah, I mean, it really is the personality. It's a personality that you can put forward, and you don't have to be the best. You just have to say you're the best, and people will believe it. Although if somebody else says you're the best, or you should do this, it comes over a lot better than if you're doing it yourself, right? So if you have a champion.
This is a point. So Amit, yeah, I think what I've read so far is great. Yeah, do you think Paul is one of the best? You can sell the book for him. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, look, you basically, in terms of audience, I'm pretty much the perfect person to read your book, because. A bit about my background. Tim's known me for a decade, but over the last 20 years, I left a career. I'm an ex-criminal lawyer, and then last kind of 9 years, I've been a humanities teacher. History and English. So I share all of in the criminal law days, I would have overdosed on just John Grisham books and maybe some Tess Gerriston, and now obviously switching over the last decade to teaching humanities. I had to really diverse, reading everything about history, politics, obviously the classics, which is why I also then linked to things like poetry. I've spent the last few years really, not just reading poetry, but writing. So it's expanded my horizon. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been I'm so glad that Tim asked me to co-present, because I've loved reading the book, and And as I mentioned at the start, if it's got humor, then it's gonna pull me in even more, because that was an unexpected surprise. You don't normally get those all the time. I guess also wasn't expecting that in your book you incorporate large conversations in Spanish and some French, as you're navigating around these countries. So it seems like you're bilingual, and that you know another language. But my question is, when, for example, I think about writing and things I've written, I've never really incorporated another language that I do know, and I have been, picking up on additional languages like Spanish and picking up on my schooling in French. But when I work with my school students, a lot of them do have other languages that just, the nature of the world at the moment, they've come from somewhere. Mother tongue might be, another language. They have French or Spanish. So do you think it's a good thing, instead of just writing a book in one language, to kind of have this really interesting mix of dialogue in different languages? And because I found it really interesting the way you incorporated that.
That's a great question. The reason I did it was to put the person in the situation, the reader in the situation, because and I tried to explain what the language is around it, sort of thing, so that if you don't know Spanish, and it turns out, I was not fluent at anything. I was just kind of trying Spanish and trying French, because and you can see, and hopefully that comes through, and people say, oh, this is wrong, this Spanish is wrong. It's like, no, you're kidding, right? What was your first clue? I didn't know the language. I'm just trying to figure it out, right, as I'm going, and that was on purpose, to put it in like that, not to put it in verbatim what it normally was, but it was to put the person in that situation. Because if you've never been to Spain, and someone starts talking to you in Spanish, and you say, I don't understand, they just say it louder, right? I mean, oh, maybe you didn't hear it. It's like, oh, I'm gonna say it louder. So you don't get to say, oh, wait, oh, you're English. Like in Stockholm, they start talking to you in Swedish, and you say, no, sorry, I don't. Oh, you're American. Okay, so let me talk to you in English, right? That doesn't happen everywhere. And in France, they could care. In those days, they could care less if you could speak French or not. They're going to speak French, right? That's the reason I put that in there, is to force them into the situation, to say, it's not really all like, oh, look, the Eiffel Tower. Oh, look, here, the Arc de Triomphe. And oh, look, and one thing I didn't put in the book, though, is I just thought of this. I don't know why, but I actually was following someone into a bull ring, and as I say, so they kind of escaped, but I was in the bull ring, standing there like, what the hell am I going to do now? And they released the bulls in there for their exercise, right? And so I had to go up and over into the stands and stuff really quick, because they almost got me there. So that would have been most ironic end to my adventure. But but the languages I think are important for people to be at least exposed to different languages and that and I mean, if you kind of understand a little bit about Spanish, let's say, you could probably understand a little bit about French and Italian, and so you kind of you just got to get them into that situation to say, what, it's not all like St. Louis, Missouri in the United States, or it's not like Alabama or Florida or something. It's there's some real world out there, and you got to pay attention, and you got to start understanding and seeing what it's all about, sort of thing. And that's the reason I put that in the book. It wasn't really to show off that I knew anything about anything, because I don't. I never have. So.
And linked to that, you kind of touched in the book about, for example, like these languages which we don't really know about, like the Basque language or the Catalan languages, and you kind of don't know how long they've been around or how long they will be around, because it's only a small kind of, they're very regional. In some parts of Spain or France, they understand Basque, and the same for Catalan. So do you think that those kind of languages will only stay alive if people continue writing in them and encouraging others to speak in those languages, or are they naturally just going to die out if it's not encouraged outside those regions?
Yeah, I have a feeling they may die out because they're not they're not marketed. I mean, they don't go outside their little area and they speak that, and we see that as a kind of a melting pot here in the U.S. Is that certain areas are Chinese, or they're Korean, or southern just southern white Alabama, kind of people that they have their own language, sort of thing, and that isn't something that's going to go away, but you see it going away in those communities, sort of thing here, and it's because we don't really advertise that it's a wonderful thing for you to hear someone speaking Russian or Navajo Indian, sort of thing. We have lots of Indians here the same way, and their languages are dying as well, and it's just kind of probably something about assimilation, and but I would love to see some of these languages, hold on and still be it. And it's like go to these places and hear the languages. You don't have to understand it, just hear it. It's like and it's like and they probably know 16 different kind of languages anyway, so they can probably translate. Um, you can always come to some kind of a resolution. I once ran out of gas in. Sorry to go off on so many tangents. You guys got to pull me back if you did.
You carry on.
I ran out of gas. I ran out of gas once in just outside of Waterloo, and so I called on. They have these big boxes every so often, and it just has a red button. That's it. So I hit the red button, and the guy starts in with French, and I said, "Oh, sorry, do you speak English?" And he says, "Yes, I do." And my question should have been, "Do you understand English?" Because I said, "Look, I ran out of gas. I need to, is there some way you can get me some gas? A gallon of gas to get to town. I will send a car." And so he did. He sent this little thing. It was looked like a Yugo, and it backed up in front. It had these huge big lights on it that were way too big for the car. And I get out and I see the guy's got these 5-gallon cans stacked in the back seat, sort of thing. And he says, I said, "Do you speak English?" And he says, "No." "Do you speak French?" Basically, and I said, "No." I forgot every word I ever learned in English and in French. And I said, "Do you speak Spanish?" And he said, "No." He said, it said something like, "Do you speak?" I think it was like Italian, and we went through all kinds of languages, Polish and any language you think of. It's like, and so we just kind of stood there looking at each other like, well, we shrugged our shoulders, and so I grabbed his arm and I brought him around to the gas tank, and I pointed to the gas tank. He says, "Oh, essence," right? And I said, "Yes, yes, yes, gasoline," right? So in all these languages that we all knew, maybe cut 5 words in it, we got to the point where, here's the story anyways. He could not give me unleaded gas. He could only give me leaded gas, I think, at the time, and unless I bought a 300 euro membership into the what we call a AAA here, Automobile Association. And I said, "No, I'm only going to be here a few more months. I don't need." "Well, you can give it to somebody else, right?" But basically, he says, "Well, what I can do is I can tow you into town." I said, "Okay." And so he gets this rope. I mean, literally a rope, a cowboy rope, and ties it onto his bumper. And I said, "What are you doing? Basically, what's all this?" "Oh, no worries. He said, just hit the brakes. And so he tied on the front end, and I had to, and I followed him. And if I got too close rolling, I had to slam on the brakes and slow down and all this. And so he gets me into this town. It was like walking distance. It was like literally not more than a few hundred yards to this gas station, anyways. And he pulled me in there and getting the gas. And so I he and the gas attendant are looking at each other like, what kind of American, this is the ugly American here for sure. And so so he's writing out his papers, whatever he's doing, and I said, do I owe you anything? He said, no. He come, como bien. It's no. This is all good. And it's like because this story, I'm sure he was thinking, because this story is better than anything I could have ever made up in my entire life. So anyways, what was our original question? Sorry to get off on a tangent again.
I got stuck in that story. I'm just in the middle of that story. I can't think of anything. This is the problem when I'm speaking to people. I call it write a chat, yeah, because I just get into the chat and I forget. Like, I don't try and make it look professional or like this, like an interview. I just want it to be like chat based, So if you're in the pub and you're having a chat, you wouldn't say like, what's next? What's the next question?
Yeah.
And you'd sit there quietly, really, just for a moment. But obviously, we can't do that because it would be really weird. But yeah, I can't think. Amit, can you think of anything? So far we've today. This is to me, this is really like a beautiful chat. Yeah, really nice chat because I see like your personality and the stories. And when you see someone's personality, you want to buy the book. You know what I mean? Because it's like there's something of them in their work, and all I want to say, like me, I said to Amber, we need to do like a tour, go around the world. And because originally I was doing that, I was going and interviewing people in the countries before the lockdown, but we'll definitely need to put Paul on our list, yeah. Absolutely. And go because he's in Lake Erie,
yeah,
which is a really beautiful part of America, so it's worth it's going on the list, Amit. I think Amit, you okay? You there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, Paul's going to be on our list. Yeah, we're going to go and visit him in Lake Erie. Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say, even if Paul wants to utilize some of his air miles, we're happy to host you, Paul. Yeah. If you want to come back.
Paul, give us your air miles.
I might take you up. I think I have like 650,000 left or something like that. So.
Start using them. Yeah, come and we'll host you. But no, I have something I wanted to ask Paul actually, which was I don't know. I mean, I've been to the US a few times, maybe 4 or 5 times, but I don't think I've ever met anyone who's lived in like pretty much every US state. So something that came to my mind was when I came back to London after a few years teaching overseas, I was a little shocked because this place where I'd grown up and, I thought I knew, everyone and whatever. Suddenly I was hearing, languages and things that I'd never ever heard. And I realized that over the years that I'd been away, there'd been a mass migration from Europe. And, suddenly we had Albanian neighbors and we had people from Lithuania and French, German, I wasn't expecting it. But I'm the kind of person who puts myself in the other person's shoes. So I was wondering like how they were experiencing London based on, where they're from. But I was also thinking, is there anything that connects us? We're all European. Well, before the Brexit thing, but, I was wondering, is there a common thread? Because we don't speak the same language. We don't look the same. But you being someone who's traveled so much and lived in every US state almost, maybe bar Hawaii or whatever, is there a connection between people, all these different states? Because when I've traveled, let's say to New York or LA, I see them as completely different people, or in the South, or, so is there a connector, or is America too sparse?
Well, they definitely do. The different parts of the country have their own sort of what we used to call cliques in high school. They sort of stick together with the same sort of attitudes and that. Like New Yorkers are very abrupt and will tell you what they think in no unpleasant terms. Whereas in Hawaii, it's all like. Mañana, man, it's like we could do this another, like, hey, no problems here and anything like that. So, and then in places like Anchorage, in Alaska, they're all like spacemen. I mean, they actually, they're when I was there, I spent the whole winter over there and part of the summer and it is like living on an outpost of the moon. I mean, it is really so far different from anything else I've ever seen in my life on this planet here. And but every area, every state that you kind of go to has its own sort of wordings. You know, they in Texas they'll say there's a fast food restaurant chain called what a burger, and they call it Waterburger. You know, and I for the longest time I said, what in the hell are you saying? Who wants to eat a hamburger with water made out of water? And it's like, what? No, it's not Waterburger. It's Waterburger. And it's like, no, it's Waterburger. It's like, you know, I mean, and the whole, I mean, that's just one example. And I mean, all over the South, you know, I was raised in the South for a bit of time, and they all have their own kind of basically languages and mistrust of anybody outside that area, basically. And but you do have some states that are kind of amalgamations now that are getting people from the north and the south and all that. Like Georgia is one of those states, and Oregon maybe, and Washington State and places like that, where it's like, okay, you know, you're there, you know, you're there and you're one of us now, you know, it's okay, you know, no big deals and that. But yeah,
you come to England again, Paul. Yeah, the best people in England are in the north. Yeah.
I can't argue with that.
Okay.
Well, if you guys ever get to the second book, it's about the UK and Ireland. So
London Bridge is falling down, isn't it?
Yeah. And so you'll get to see the places I've roamed around for there as well. But and all the stories in there are true as well. And you'll be one of the first ones that you'll run across is I don't know if you guys even remember that, or if they even make a big deal out of it anymore, but the Princess Anne was almost kidnapped at one point. Yeah, I was there. So that's in the book. Just happened to be
in part 2 of this chat. We'll talk about that. Yeah. So when we come on next time, we'll talk about the second book more.
I'll read it by then.
It's better because but I've got like an hour's footage to edit now, so yeah.
Okay.
Paul, it was amazing to chat to you. Really nice, yeah. Really, and that's what I love to see from the chat, is when almost like you become like friends, you know, sitting in a bar, you know, with a beer.
Right. Yeah,
apart from the silences, which we can't do. But you know, have to keep the chat flowing. Because, like I said, I get involved in the conversation and then I just forget about questions. Really? Wow.
That's why I'm here.
Good deal. Yeah, I've actually been interviewed by people who were expecting 1 and 2 sentence answers, and they were very much miffed when I sort of kind of went on and on and on. And on. It's just my personality. I'm friendly, and you guys, you know, you guys are like part of me now. You know, you're my friends as far. So
thank you.
So I mean, it's all great, and you're totally welcome here anytime you want to come. If you're passing through or whatever, you just let me know. I'm there for you.
We're definitely going to do it because people in America, people are much more receptive. So I asked them, can we have a right to chat? And so far, it's just Americans. Like you ask some Europeans, and they're like, who are you? You know, how much money are you going to give us? Well, Americans are not very open at the moment, so it's basically American.
Yeah. I think it's probably because they're looking for social interaction now, right? Because we've been locked down for so long, you know, and it's like.
Well, I was speaking to a Scottish girl the other day, a Scottish comedian. One of the last chats I did, and she was on a show with a guy called Dylan Moran. Who's a comedian. He's in like Run Fat Boy Run and some like other films. Yeah, he's friends with Simon Pegg. Yeah, and Simon Pegg is friends with Tom Cruise. So that's my aim. Right, yeah. I have to try and get to Tom Cruise to try.
There you go. Yeah, I love Simon Pegg.
Simon Pegg's great. Yeah. Okay, so I'll be in touch. Yeah, Amit.
Yeah, Anytime.
Yeah, I'll be in touch, and then we'll have another chat and catch up. And
Yeah. I'm going to read London Bridge is Falling Down, and then we'll talk again, Paul.
All right.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you.
Oh, thank you guys.
Paul.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.